Nostalgia is such a strange feeling, isn't it? One minute you're going about your day, and the next you hear a song or catch a familiar smell, and suddenly you're transported back to some moment you hadn't thought about in years. It's like time travel, but instead of visiting the future, you're dropped into this warm, blurry snapshot of your past. It's comforting, for sure. Nostalgia feels safe, like a hug from an old friend you haven't seen in ages. But it's not just about the good times. There's always this little edge to it, this faint ache. It's like your brain is saying, hey, remember when life felt simpler? When everything made sense? Even if, let's be honest, it probably didn't. What's wild to me is how specific nostalgia can be. Like it's not just childhood or high school, it's the sound of a pencil sharpener in a quiet classroom, or the smell of your grandparents' house, or the way the sun hit the pavement on a summer evening. These tiny, seemingly random details stick with you, and they come rushing back at the most unexpected times. Why is that? Why does our brain choose those moments to hold on to? Sometimes I wonder if nostalgia is less about the past itself and more about how we felt in those moments. Maybe we're not longing for the specific scene, but for the version of ourselves that existed back then. The version that hadn't faced certain struggles yet, or hadn't learned certain lessons the hard way. It's not that we want to go back, well, maybe sometimes we do, but more that we miss the feeling of being that person. What's funny is that nostalgia isn't always accurate. Our memories are far from perfect, and we tend to polish them up a bit when we look back. That song you loved in middle school might have actually been terrible, or that family vacation might have been filled with arguments you conveniently forgot. But in your head, it's golden, untouchable, and maybe that's okay. Maybe nostalgia is less about facts and more about the feelings those facts leave behind. And then there's the question of why we feel nostalgic at all. I've read that it might be a coping mechanism, like our brain's way of grounding us when the present feels a little too chaotic. Nostalgia gives us something steady to hold on to, a reminder that we've been through a lot and made it to where we are. It's almost like your past self reaching out and saying, hey, remember this? You're still that person, deep down. But nostalgia isn't just personal, it's collective too. Think about how people bond over shared memories, TV shows, music, games from a specific era. These things create this weird sense of connection between strangers. Like if you grew up in the 90s, you might feel an instant bond with someone else who remembers the same cartoons or pop songs. Nostalgia becomes this shared language, a way of saying, we might not know each other, but we lived through the same moments. At the same time, there's a risk of getting stuck in nostalgia, like it's easy to idealize the past and forget that it wasn't perfect. Every generation seems to do this, talking about the good old days as if they were somehow better than now. But nostalgia can blur the details. It's not the whole story, just the highlights. And while it's nice to visit those highlights, you don't want to live there permanently. I think the trick with nostalgia is finding a balance, appreciating the past without getting trapped in it, letting it remind us of who we were and how far we've come, but not letting it keep us from moving forward. It's like looking at an old photo album. You smile, maybe tear up a bit, and then you close it and get back to the present. So yeah, nostalgia is complicated. It's warm and bittersweet, comforting and a little painful all at once. But maybe that's why it matters. It's proof that the moments we live now will someday matter too, even if we don't realize it yet.